welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe.
So Joe and I, it's actually early evening right now. It's Saturday night. We're on our date night.
Yes.
And even though it is in the evening and it's kind of dark out, I can hear so many birds. Like it's like we're in an aviary. So just in case you're wondering what's going on, we're sitting outside with very active birds.
They're singing good night, and then in the morning when I'm waking up around 4 o'clock, they're singing good morning. And I'll tell you what, today is like signs of life is a real good thing, and I hear those birds chirping.
Yeah, I love it. You know, Joe goes to work. It's still dark outside when he leaves. And a lot of times I help him. I walk to the car because he has so many things. And I say goodbye to him. And when we first open up the door to go outside and I hear the birds, and then sometimes too, the sun will just be starting to rise. And it looks almost like pinkish from the house. It's just so beautiful. It's a happy time. There's something, I get to enjoy this. And that's what we're going to talk about in tonight's video. When you're recovering, when you're on the path to recovery, there's so much that goes into it. But one of the most important things is the way that you think. That can really make you or break you.
Perception.
Yeah.
Is in the shift in perception happened for me when I started looking at myself, and what role did I have to play in? And that's when things started. And also knowing that God did for me what I couldn't do for myself, like. My best thinking kept me entangled with a narcissist for 20 years, and there was no way out. Realizing that the God of my understanding saw fit out of everyone on earth, like to actually, like a divine intervention to come in to save me, is where I started. That's the foundation of my self-worth.
Yeah, I agree. When you're going through a rough time, you know, like when you're with a narcissist, you tend to think that something is terribly wrong with them. You know, and a lot of your focus when you're still with the narcissist
And there definitely is.
And there, oh, of course. But the secret to recovery, you guys, is to focus on yourself. And it sucks. Like, I didn't want it to be this way. Because when I was my age, when I'm the age I am now, I wanted my life to be, you know, well on the way. Where I was actually in the best place, the best financial place, because I'm the oldest I've been. The kids are graduating, and, you know, it's empty nester time. But instead, Joe and I are completely starting over, each, you know, in our own way.
It's a difference between
having
to start, not having to start over, but getting to start over, like you said before.
Yes, exactly. I just wanted to just go back for a second. So when I was talking about how I thought my life would be a certain way, but if you focus on what you can have now, it's the most beautiful thing. It's a rebirth. Like, guys, I'm the best I've ever been now, and I hope that keeps changing. I never, ever would have felt this way if I was still with the narcissist.
It's definitely a process,
yeah,
for sure, and it takes a lot of work and looking at my part in things. And I think the biggest thing even when the narcissist was away for many months, I was upset and angry and depressed, and what it boiled down to was, like, I didn't have a lot of self-worth, and it was just like, here I am, middle-aged, starting over, still thinking, what do I want to do with my life? Will a place accept me if I apply? And all these fears, and it was really like self-doubt, but it automatically went back to the past because of this, because of that person, whatever. There is truth to that, but there's truth too in a way where the problem, like, I was part of that problem. And thank God, because I have a chance to change it with God's help. I could change that part. If I have a problem, I hope it's mine.
You know, I am not a big fan of self-reflection. Joe can tell you that. It's painful to me, and so I don't like doing it. So this is not welcome news that this is what I have to do to get on the other side of recovery. But you guys, as I've gone through things, it actually gets easier. And now, I don't want to ever say I'm happy that things happened the way they did. That's definitely not accurate. But I can see today, and at this point in the recovery, that what happened has made me the best version of myself, which I am today, which Joe benefits from, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely, because I think that's the best way you can love somebody, is by loving yourself. And through that, imagine how many lives you could change, your children's. And, like, one of the kids' biggest fears is mom or dad going to be okay and this and that, and just being a power of example and actually being the message of hope and not necessarily have to carry it, but just to be that message is a miracle. And it's all, you guys, this whole channel is to bear witness of God's power, not our own or not anything we do, but what He can do, or she, however you see God to be. Sharon and I have a faith in Jesus and the Yahweh, our Creator. But whatever you perceive that to be, if anything, it's just not possible without God for me.
Oh, absolutely. And that actually may be a future video that we do. I know we've done things like that in the past, but we could really talk about, if you want to, Joe, the role that God played in our, like, not even just recovery, but getting out, the miracle that was, and how we benefited tremendously by listening to what God said when He said it, even though it wasn't always the easy thing to do.
And like in Sharon's case and mine too, and we say thank you, and then God says, "Don't thank me, do it for somebody else." You know, it's just, it, I don't. It's just, it wasn't from, in my experience, it was not possible. My best thinking got me entangled with a narcissist, a very malicious one, for 20 years, staying in an abusive relationship. Um, Guy got me out, and he did for me what I couldn't do for myself. On that truth, and my ego was deflated, and my true self, like, I started to learn to love myself.
Well, I think there's a process, for many of us. If you're codependent or codependent, whatever it is, a people pleaser, and that's how a lot of us were, And so when you know that, and that's really who you are, to break free of that, it's difficult. But what really helped me, you guys, was every single day I would start my day off, and I did this for a long time. I would think of 3 things I was grateful for. So it would be whatever 3 things, and I could never repeat it. So I would have to do this every day. So I couldn't say, I'm grateful for my kids, and then tomorrow I'm grateful for my kids. It was new things. And when I first started doing that, I thought, well, geez, I'm going to have to do repeats really soon. But you don't. And it's all that perspective. I am grateful for these things. I get to do this. And even though it's painful to get there, it's you will feel, it's almost like, I think somebody who is addicted to drugs or alcohol, withdrawal would be horrible, but afterwards you feel cleaner, better than you ever have. That's kind of how it is for this. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I do, and I think the cool part about this channel is that it's male, female, and like you get different perspectives and different like experiences from on the opposite end of the spectrum. For me, there was no 3 things. It was, I can't live this way for the rest of my life.
Yeah, when I first knew Joe, I didn't know this, but you had told me, like, how down you were. You were really, really in a bad place. And can you talk a little bit about that and then compare it to where you are now?
Well, I had this dream of what I wanted life to be in family, and it really was a nightmare. And I woke up from a nightmare, and now the dream is. But in my case, it was, I can't live like this anymore. I didn't want to necessarily end my life, although that was in the process of it. That was it. And as far as like a list or a gratitude list, this was Joe's gratitude list. I call up Sharon at 1 o'clock in the morning, freaked out because my electrics turned off. The ex stole the car. I have no money in my bank. I got 2 boys to take care of. I got to work. And she'd say, "Okay, Joe, like, do you have to make any decisions right now, 1 o'clock in the morning?" And I say no. And then she'd say, "Do you have food in the fridge?" Yes. "Do you have like some form of shelter? Are the kids in bed?" So it was through that was a gratitude list for me, is understanding that not only were all of my needs met, they've always been met, and I have more than needs, which is an abundance of blessings. So it was different ends of the spectrum for both of us. The bottom line, though, that shift of perspective happened when we had to look within.
And you know what I found? I don't know if this is the same with you. After a while, it becomes who I am. I don't have to constantly remind myself, "Oh, I get to do this." Right, Sharon, you get to do this. No, I absolutely feel that way. I look at life as a blessing now.
It took a lot of work, you guys. The inner work, the outer work, the foot. Like we always say, you can pray for potatoes and tomatoes all you want, but if you don't pick up the hose and you don't pick up the shovel, it ain't nothing going to grow in that garden. You know, you got to do what's possible in order for, in my case, God to do the impossible.
That kind of, this is like a little off topic, but not really, because it's another video I was thinking you and I had talked about. Guys, Joe and I, especially Joe, we've spoken about, I don't even, whether it's a series or a little booklet or something where we talk about how to get to the other side, like the steps you have to take to get. Why don't you tell them, Joe? Because you're actually better at this than I am talking about it.
Long story short, after about 7 or 8 months of the narcissist being gone and me still being miserable and shit, I was listening to a psychiatrist on the internet, and he was talking about how, like, heroin addiction and drug addiction is very much like the codependent relationship with the cluster B personality, and the withdrawal and like the symptoms of withdrawal and getting away from that is as potent as heroin, like the withdrawal part.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me, hey, dummy, like I've been in the recovery from drugs and alcohol when I turned, just before I turned 26 years old. And there are steps that you do. It actually, like step by step, like a roadmap of what exactly to do to recover. And I linked it up with this stuff going on with the narcissist, and I started implementing that step work in my life, and it changed everything. It works for any situation. It was incredible. I was like, holy crap, we got to like let people know, because I'm not the one to go to church and raise my hand in the middle of mass, and when they say who wants to be saved, to go up to the front or get baptized. I got baptized like 2 or 3 times because the first two didn't work. I don't know if the third one did, but like surrender to God and let go, and like that's all just abstract art. It's just just nothing to touch to say. Tell me how to surrender. Tell me how to let go. Like, and there's definitely a roadmap.
See, that's the thing. You and I kind of stumbled on this, but gosh, if you could start from the beginning, going, step by step by step. So, Joe, look out for that with Joe and I pretty soon.
Yeah, if you have an open mind, you have 2% honesty and some willingness. That's how it will work.
I agree. So, should we let everybody go? Should we start our evening or finish our evening?
Yeah, I wanted to add on to you guys part of the shift in perception where you get to start over again. It's all I'm going to be doing things that I always wanted to do and I never did. I'm going back to school. I got hobbies now. I got goals. So there's like a whole world out there, and man, is it beautiful.
And the thing is, it's hard to think this when you're at the worst of it. It really does get better. You really can do this. Just having that hope makes a huge difference as you move forward.
Sharon's very optimistic, but I consider myself a realistic person. It won't get better unless you do something about it, because there's people out there that have taken their lives, that have slowly tried to wither away through drugs and alcohol, recovering from the narcissistic abuse, and not being able to look at themselves and get honest and stuff like that. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's like not everybody does.
I'm really glad that you said that, because I was making it a little bit too simplistic.
Yeah, you got to work your ass off. Yeah. I'm not gonna coat it with sugar. You see, a lot of work involved, and just some days was just like, just breathe, and it's almost I could put my head on the pillow.
But it's just a reminder that when there are the bad days, it really does get better. It does, but Joe's right. There is a lot of work to do with it.
So Sharon brought that up because we were thinking about like getting like pretty much like a roadmap on how to recover from this hopeless state of mind and body, and it really like it doesn't have much to do with the narcissist. Yeah, that's the incredible part. It's true, like maybe you acknowledge it, but that was just one event in our lives, so there's a lot to it. It's going to take some work to do, but if anybody's interested, I
Yeah,
definitely
let
gonna
us
start
know what you
working on it.
think, because I think that would be a great idea, because Joe's right. It's not abstract. This is what you do. You know, here's the first step, here's the second step. When you're done with the second step, you move on to the third step. So we should start that
Yeah,
soon.
and it is just like Sharon had mentioned earlier in the video, like it becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
So, like the self insights and the honesty, and it's like, well, why am I really angry? And it usually has nothing to do with that current situation. So, I forgot the philosopher who said it: "Know thyself."
Yeah.
And that, and I know, of course, my favorite Shakespeare is, as far as poetry, is "To thine own self be true."
All right, you guys. So we will let you go. I will see you hopefully later on this week. And Joe, maybe we'll be back next week. Well, you never know. I might invite you again.
Yeah, if I behave.
All right, guys. Bye.